Welcome to Friendeavor, the podcast, the weekly podcast where we explore the highs and lows of friendship with your hosts, Danielle and Kayla.
As we journey through life, our friendships often evolve and change, ebb and flow, and sometimes even come to an end. Danielle and I are lifelong advocates for the power of friendship, and we are here to guide all of us through the many challenges and joys that come with building and maintaining strong, meaningful connections with those around us.
Join us each week as we deep dive into the intricacies of friendship, from navigating conflicts to fostering new relationships and everything in between. With insightful interviews, personal anecdotes, and expert advice, Friendeavor is the perfect podcast for anyone looking to strengthen their bonds with the people they love.
So, whether you are on the go, taking care of chores, or just settling in, get ready to explore the world of friendship on Friendeavor, the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Friendeavor.
Hey, guys.
I am your host, Danielle, with my lovely co-host, Kayla, and we are thrilled to be kicking off episode 8, in which we are talking about types of quality time.
Yes, I can't believe we're 2 months into this already. So if you've stuck around this long, then we've got great things in store.
Yes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this journey. And, we try to shake it up and have interesting topics and something that you guys actually want to hear and learn from. So if you have any ideas, if there's a topic that you want to learn more about and we haven't done it yet, it could be slated for the future, or you know what, we could add it to the list, and we'll definitely look into it and see what we can learn and develop for you, the listener, something that you're looking for. All right, looking at quality time. Quality time is one of the 5 love languages. Kayla, can you walk us through what love languages are and
Yes.
what the types are or whatever? I'm kind of familiar, but I would have to look it up. So could you walk us through that?
Yeah. So I think the guy who actually made up the names of them, I think it's Gary Chapman. He wrote a book called The 5 Love. Yeah, The 5 Love Languages, and they are quality time, physical touch, acts of service, gifts, and words of affirmation. So these are ways that you express love and the ways you receive love. And for me, I think the way I express love and the way I receive love is different. So when I take the test, I actually took it twice. And the first time I answered how I would receive love, and the second time was how I would give love. And the results kind of, they shifted a little bit. So I'm excited to talk about quality time, though, because this is not one of my top 2.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah. That was actually going to be my question, was can the type that you receive and the type that you give be different? Because that is absolutely the case for me, I feel.
Yes.
So can it be obviously it's not downright scientific, but it definitely makes sense in how Gary, laid it out. So I haven't taken the test in a while, and I'm sure it would have changed a little bit because it's been quite a few years. And I know people don't just change overnight, but I would like to see how that, now that I'm older, where I fall on that. But we are a friendship channel, and a lot of those types of love, they're not just for married people, but it's typically viewed through the lens for married people. But today we're talking specifically quality time in friendship and the different types of quality time there are, because there's some people who might really love one type of quality time and not another. Every one of those love languages are going to have variations within them. So let's kick it off. Our first type of quality time that we are talking about is active listening. Okay, so
good.
Being conversation, right? Giving someone your full attention while they speak without interrupting. I'm very bad at that, without interrupting, because I have a thought and I just want to jump in and say it right then. And not just listening to them while thinking about what you're going to say next, right? So I'm waiting for a pause to give them exactly what I want to hear, what I would want to hear, when in reality it's not just about what you want to say, it's what do they need to hear?
Yeah.
And what's going to keep this conversation going?
Yeah, for sure. And active listening shows that you value the other person's thoughts and feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think active listening can be hard. It can be difficult for both the chatterboxes that just want to talk and the quiet, shy people, because oftentimes, the chatterbox is given, it's their nature that makes them want to interrupt.
Mm-hmm.
But for the quiet people, oftentimes they don't talk unless they have something really good to say. And if they think of something really good to say while you're talking, it's really hard to just brush it off, because it's like, oh my goodness, this is my chance to talk.
Yeah. And what about, this also happens to me, if we are having a conversation and I'm starting to be listening, but then my mind starts to wander, because some people do just like to talk to hear themselves talk. So as the person who's listening, because in this scenario, these quality types, we're talking about you as not the person who's giving the opportunity to be actively listened to. You're the one who's actually listening. If someone is not keeping your attention, it can be so easy for your mind to wander. So it's very important to, active listening is not just listening, it's nodding, it's agreeing, or it's, making some sort of noise. Or if you are in a professional or academic setting, you're taking notes. Obviously, if your friend is talking about their feelings, you're not just like, let me jot that
Pulling
down
out a
really
notepad.
let me jot that down really quick. But
how do you feel about that?
Exactly. Can you lay down on the couch and we'll have a full psych session about this. But no, it's just, it's giving subtle hints through your body language that yes, you are engaged and that you care about what they have to say.
Yeah, and that you're really following along.
Moving on to our second type of quality time, we're talking about shared experience. Shared experiences. So activities and hobbies that you can do together that you both enjoy. So like hiking or cooking, attending concerts, and like 52 Friend Dates, the book is designed to give you ideas for those shared experiences, to help you spend quality time with your friends and document it in a fun way. That's just a teeny tiny plug that I not planned on putting in there, but it just, when listing these things, that's what came to mind.
Yeah. And if you need ideas for shared experiences, you can click the link in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And shared experiences means trying new things as well, not just the things that you like, which is important to do, but be spontaneous. It doesn't really matter if it's a flop, because if you're in good company, then the flop can actually be one of the craziest, funniest memories ever.
Absolutely.
So be spontaneous and try new things.
I can totally attest to that. Like, me and my friends did an escape room one time and we were quite terrible at it. And I've always wanted to go back and try again, but that, just because we were bad at it doesn't mean that we didn't have a good time,
Right.
But what shared experiences does is creates like an active memory for both of you. So it's something that you can look back to for a specific instance of a memory. Conversations are great. Having a text conversation or a FaceTime, those are all great and they're needed for a friendship. But a shared experience is a quality time that is like in the moment, it's happening, and then physical action is going to help trigger those memories in the future, or like your short-term versus long-term memory, that kind of thing. So a shared experience will help you develop like a bond that you can look back to and reference as like a new stepping point for your relationship, right? I mean, there's a reason that corporations send these coworkers on like team building exercises. I don't know if you're familiar with like the rope courses or the I saw one time that was like paintball, like, but it was like actual tactical, so they had to work as a team, and they do all this stuff to create a shared experience, to create a bond for this team, trust building exercises. So you're really, this quality time of a shared experience is in the long run helping you build trust.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, we talked about having the trust being built in a shared experience. Let's move on to having a deep conversation. This is not typically something that you can plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Like we talked about in spontaneity, like for an activity, that's awesome. You can totally do that. Doesn't matter if it's going to be good, bad, or ugly. Spontaneity, that's going to happen. You are not usually going to be able to plan deep conversations. Okay, on this day, we are going to force ourselves to talk about our feelings. No, that kind of stuff just happens. So
yeah,
there's your spontaneity as well. Like if you're just having a time at your friend's house, sitting around the table, sitting on the couch, whatever, the conversation will kind of twist and turn to the point where you're getting into a deep conversation, and having a heartfelt moment together it requires that quality of friendship for a quality time that's just going to strengthen your emotional bond and increase your understanding of each other.
Yeah. And that's why trust is super important, because you can't have these conversations without trust. And you want to be able to share these kind of things with your closest friends without feeling like you're going to be judged or that they're going to go share that information with someone else. I mean, we've talked about this, but without trust, there really is no foundation for the friendship. And when you don't trust someone, I've tried this before. I'm like, okay, I still want to be close to this person, but I don't really trust them. But we could still make it work. And then I just came to find out, like, no, actually, there's no closeness if there's no trust, because I don't share these kind of things with them.
And that's when you get into just having time with these people instead of quality time.
Yes.
You know, like, it's one thing to just hang out with your friends. It's another thing to have meaningful time spent with them. And so what we're focusing on today is that quality time where you need to have the trust element and all that stuff, because other than that, you're just going to be having like a hangout with people that you are, that might be a little bit lower on your friendship pyramid, which is not bad. Right. That's not wrong to spend time. Yeah. But if you're looking for actual quality time, it's going to be with people that you care very, very deeply for and you trust. All right, this number 4 is one of my favorites. Sharing a meal together, like a quality meal where you're putting time and energy, whether it's a home cooked meal or you're dining at your favorite restaurant. Meal times, they just provide the environment where you're doing something, but it's not like crazy doing something that requires a lot of brain activity, but you still have that bridge so that when there is a lull in conversation, you're still eating, you're still having a drink, you're still whatever. And when we use the term quality meals, coffee can be a quality time. It doesn't have to be like a giant fulfilling meal in order for it to be quality time. As long as
homemade.
Yeah. As long as you're coming into it with the mentality of, this is time I am spending in a shared environment, specifically involving food.
Yeah. And sitting around a table with your friends is kind of a different kind of quality time, because most distractions are eliminated. So, I mean, you can still get distracted by like people watching at a restaurant, but you're not going to sit there and scroll through Instagram sitting at a table. I mean, the most you could get distracted by is your food,
right?
Which you're all sharing. So, but yeah, it's a great setting to just have conversations without interruptions.
Yeah. I would be ashamed, honestly, probably, to know how much money my friends and I have spent at restaurants and getting coffee and all that stuff. But we're not just going just to eat. It is shared experience. And so obviously that doesn't like override being a good steward with your money, but it also is like, I don't regret that money spent, because it was time together. It was time spent together, and of the highest quality. How many times have my friends gone to a restaurant just to get dessert, just to get coffee? It is pretty rare that we'll just like, hey, let's have dinner together. I mean, it's sometimes, but it's usually before an event or whatever. And then I think to like our annual Christmas party, we make dinner together, and it's obviously it's around the holidays, so it's more meaningful and everything. But that quality time of actually preparing the meal together and then eating it and moving on with our traditions, it's just a very special time.
Yes.
I want to jump back to the coffee aspect really quick, because something came to mind when we were talking about that. I had a friend at one point, a very good friend, still is, but we just don't spend as much time together anymore because of life and all that kind of stuff. And I would ask her, like, hey, do you want to go get coffee? To me, that phrase was, hey, do you want to go sit down, share an hour or whatever, drinking coffee, conversing, getting to know each other better, strengthen our bond, that kind of thing. And to her, it was, yeah, let's go and grab coffee and go back to our houses. And I'm like, I don't need a ride to the coffee shop. Like, I don't need you to drive me there, we get coffee and go home. Like, getting coffee was our time to like, and if she wasn't available, that's fine. Like, hey, no, I can't tonight, I'm sorry, whatever. But there was a severe lack of connection between what I meant and what she meant. And so we like rarely had those quality times over coffee, because she was just like, yeah, let's go. And then we would be there and back in like 15 minutes. So I'm like, I don't need a ride to the
not the
coffee shop.
idea.
Not the idea. So I never came out and told her like, hey, that's not what I'm talking about. But it was like, it took me a few times to realize, I'm like, why is she just like, one time we got there and she's like, do you want to stay or can we go? I'm like, I guess we can go, because like she just had missed the point so hard. I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's so funny. Such different definitions.
Yeah, you could ask a friend to go and share a meal or share a coffee or whatever, but they might not understand what you're saying. So if it happens to you once, the next time you try to do it, I would clarify, hey, it's been a while since we've caught up. Let's go take an hour. I would say, let's have a catch up session at the coffee shop or something. And that's not going to happen. Most people are going to realize what you want to do. This was a very unique situation where I was like, I mean, I guess like I'm not asking you just, hey, can you drive me there? Like, I have my license, I'm an adult, I can drive myself. But whatever. So quality time for me and quality time for her were two different things. So number 4 was quality meals, which leads us to number 5, my second favorite of the quality times here. Exploring new places. So traveling together, exploring new places, or revisiting favorite destinations together. It can create lasting memories and deepen your connection. It's again dedicated time spent together.
This is something, honestly, I wish my group of friends was better at, because it's a group of 4 of us and only one of us is a planner. The other 3 are like, we go with the flow. So it doesn't really work when you're trying to plan a nice bougie trip. I mean, we've been on trips together, never outside of California though. So, but this is something we could definitely do if we just planned for it.
Yeah. Okay, so a perfect example of this, I just got back from a cruise to Mexico, and we actually, so I had wanted to do it back in like 2014. Okay, like we were way too young, we did not have the money, but I was like, we got to do this. It took us 10 years to get to the point where we could like afford it. We hadn't been planning it for 10 years, but it had been on our horizon for 10 years. And so back in like February or something, one of my friends was like, hey, what about doing a cruise over Labor Day weekend? And I was like, finally, this is what I've been
Get
waiting
it on the calendar
for 10 years. And we did it, and we had an awesome time. And that was my first cruise, and it was my sister's first cruise.
Aww.
And it was an amazing time of togetherness where you're quite literally trapped together. But you're not like stuck together, if that makes sense. Like, if you need your own time, hey,
there's places to go.
There's like 12 different decks. You can go on whatever deck you want. So traveling together is a shared experience. It does require planning. It does require money, but you can make it work. Like if you wanted to. And coincidentally, at the beginning of October, we just celebrated 10 years of friendship. We have a date that we specifically picked, this time that we spent together. And that cruise was our 10-year anniversary present to ourselves.
That is so awesome. Hey, if you can have a decade-old friendship, then you've probably cracked the code.
I feel pretty good about it, because it was not something that we had found until our late teens, and it kind of just God knew what he was doing, right? And I'm not trying to say that God gives out better friendships to people than to others. No, but he ordered our steps. I fully believe this, because we were in Karen and Abby were like 13 and 14. Lydia and I were 16 and 17. Okay. 2 of us could drive. We had like kind of money, not really like enough to like go to a play every once in a while, but time spent together, and then just growing. And then we didn't grow up together through like drama years of like, 12 to 14 or whatever, but we went through like high school together and college together, and all these seasons where we're close enough in age, you know, there's like a 4.5 year age gap between all of us, between Lydia and Kara. So we all fit in kind of this one season of life together, and this two sets of sisters. And 10 years over your late teens, 20s is like a great starting point. So I feel really, really blessed, and I hope they do too. But I just know that I don't know what I would do without them, and this platform would not even exist if I didn't have such an amazing relationship with those girls. That brings us to number 6. And this one we will have to explain it, but number 6 is acts of service, which is actually its own love language. So we're going to go ahead and twist the kaleidoscope a little bit and look at an act of service through the lens of quality time. Doing something kind or helpful for someone, it's like it gives you an arena to have time together. So for example, sometimes I just run errands with my friends. Carol will be like, hey, I got to go run errands. Do you want to go with me? And I'll be like, sure. So it's not really me doing her an actual act of service, but going with her is providing quality time. And in a way, I'm doing an act, even though I'm not doing the errands for her, she wanted me to be with her. Right. So like that, and that is kind of like, again, we're going loosely with this, but if you kind of meld these together, an act of service is, I might not want to go to Trader Joe's and Walmart and Target and whatever on a Saturday, but hey, she wants me to go with her. So it's crazy out there, but she wants me to be with her. So as kind of an act of service, slightly, I will go and spend that quality time with her.
Yeah.
When you offer support through like a challenging time, when my grandparents passed away, different times, but people were so, helpful. Even though we live here and they were 2,100 miles away, they still offered acts of service through us, through like spending quality time at our house or that kind of thing, just because they knew, that in challenging times, being there for someone is an act of service that goes hand in hand with quality time.
Yeah. And then branching off of that idea of your friends going through challenging times, some people think, well, it'd be really beneficial for them to have someone to talk to. And if I want to have quality time with them, then I need to sit down with them for 2 hours and have a heart-to-heart conversation. And maybe that's not what your friend needs. Maybe they need you to just go to the store and drop off some groceries. And it is a form of quality time. It's I mean, that's what they need from you.
It's taking on that burden for them, time spent so that they can focus on what they need.
Yeah.
And in that way, you are indeed providing a service for them. I definitely feel like there's people who do not need, 50 people having a wake at their house at a challenging time. Some people need space. And just because it's not quality time together doesn't mean that you're not giving them quality time in their own space. I don't think we're stretching too far here, but I wanted to make sure that we covered that, because each love language is not if you took a piece, a pie chart and split it into 5 pieces, it's not going to be a hard line between each love language. There's like melding and blending, and people, you have a first and a second love language, like your first place and your second place. It's not all in one direction. So quality time and your acts of service, I hope we did it justice in pulling those two together, but we just want you to understand that like some people, an act of service will be giving them space, some people will be spending time with them, and it's up to you to develop your friendship to the point where you understand what your friend needs in good times and in bad. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Number 7, we are looking at quality playtime. Specifically, if you have children, spending focused, uninterrupted time with them. So parent to child engaged in play or activities they enjoy is absolutely a form of quality time that's going to strengthen your parent to child bond. I am not a parent, but I am a teacher, and I see a lot of times when kids do not have strong bonds with their parents because of, parents work all the time, or kids are only interested in video games, or parents just don't have the energy or the desire to spend time with their kids because their energy and desire is placed elsewhere. So quality playtime between a parent and a child, again, this is not about friendship, but we're about to transition into friendship thing. It's very, very important to making sure that you are building connections with your kids. Now, bringing it down to the child perspective of child to child, Kayla, are you familiar with the concept of parallel play?
No, I don't think I've heard of it.
Okay, so parallel play is like two kids who are together playing in the same room, but they're not actually playing together. So like one kid is playing on like the blocks, they're building a block while another kid is playing in the fake kitchen or whatever. They're not playing together, but they're playing together, like in the same space, if that makes sense. And so I brought it down to a childhood level just to bring it straight back up to our friendship level. So I'm kind of going in a square here, but parallel play, quality playtime, whatever, it can also mean, this is going to sound controversial to some people, I'm sure, but it can mean that you're just both laying on your stomachs on the couch, in the same living room, on your phone, scrolling, but you're still together.
Yeah.
You're together. And even though you're not having a super deep, meaningful conversation, and even though you're not making a super strong memory, you are together. And yes, you're doing your own things, but parallel play, just like it is with the child's level, you're still in the same environment, you still have a connection, and you're still in the same environment. And sometimes that means like sending a meme to each other. Like how many times have my friends all been in a room together and we're just like scrolling on our phones? Obviously that's not what you want primarily to be your quality time, but don't dismiss the moments of, well, my friend's on their phone, so I guess I'll just leave.
Right.
You might have times of and we'll call it parallel play because that's the imagery we're using. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you are together physically in like the same room or whatever, but not actually engaging. It's not always a bad thing. Obviously, like I said, I want to double down on this. You don't want that to always be the case, but being together is being together, and you got to take the wins when you get them. Another instance, this is not exactly parallel play because you're still engaging with each other, but there's this app called Psych. It's a game where you can it's a game, it's like a shared play game, and so there's a bunch of different decks and whatever. I love this game because it's not a ton of conversation, but like every 5 minutes or so when you're between things, you just, well, not even like every round, you just erupt with laughter because you make it your own and you do what you want. So if you have not played Psych, which I think you have, right? Did we play with you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Times.
I thought so. It's, well, you can vouch for it. It's hilarious, right?
Oh, it's hilarious. If you make it hilarious.
Yeah.
I played Psych before I became an Anderson, and it's not anywhere near as funny now because they take a whole different approach to it.
Oh, I love that.
I don't think that's an Andersonism.
Better.
I think that's a sisterhoodism.
We just make things better. We brought the sisterhoodism. It's just a little bit of spice. Take a little bit of Anderson, take a little bit of sisterhood, and you get some pizzazz, and it can't be beat. Anyway, so that is just an example of, we're really taking a rabbit trail here, but parallel play. So you're all playing together when you're playing Psych. Make it your own. Yes, you're on your phones, and if a boomer walked in, they'd freak out and say all these young people are on their phones. But you know what? You're having fun. You're having quality time.
Yep.
Let's take one more rabbit trail. Did I ever tell you about that time that we were in Monterey? Brett and I were, I don't know, it was probably like 2013 or something, but we were sitting outside Ghirardelli's ice cream waiting for my parents and Kara to come find us. And so we're just sitting on the patio on our phones. Well, apparently it looks like we were on a date because this old guy comes by and I'm playing a game on my phone. He's scrolling on his phone. We're just waiting. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. But he like walks by the outdoor patio and goes, "These kids today don't even know how to go on a proper date. They're on their phones all the time." Blah, 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 blah. And I looked up and I was like, "Is he?"
I have never heard this story.
I don't even know if Brett remembers this, but I was like, "Is he talking about us?" Like that guy had no idea that we're siblings, that we're not on a date, that we're waiting for our parents. Like, and so he just went ahead and judged because people don't know your situation. So if some boomer walks in while you guys are hanging out in a digital atmosphere together playing a game, just ignore them. Like, you don't have to take it serious. Like, do what works for your friendship. What is the quality time that works for you? And then dive on in. Don't care what anybody else thinks. Yeah, I chuckled about that for years. I'm like, that clown had no idea what he was talking about.
That is hilarious.
Speaking of digital connection, let's move on into number 8, which is quality time through digital connection. In today's digital age, connecting through video calls, texting, sharing content online, those memes that you send in the Instagram DMs, those can also be quality time, as long as it's meaningful and actually fosters a sense of closeness. Like when I send a meme to someone, it's because I think they'll think it's funny. It's not because I think it's funny. It's because, hey, this is their type of humor. And I think that's where a lot of people get sick of like memes and stuff being sent, because it's like, this isn't funny. Because instead of A, sending it to B because they think B would think it's funny, they send it because it's like, I think it's funny. If you have the same humor, it doesn't really matter, but that's where it can get tiresome. So it still can be a sense of closeness if you use the tools that are at your disposal properly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I definitely think meme sharing is a form of affection. My brother is, oh gosh, he's 19 and he is the only boy with 4 sisters. And just growing up, we had our own kind of love language that we shared with each other. And then Kyle was like a whole nother story. Like it was kind of hard for each of us to adjust to like how does he show affection? Like why is he being so rude? But it's not actually being rude. It's just like he's not affectionate like us, of course. Anyway, but one of the ways Kyle and I communicate is we share memes with each other. And sometimes he'll send me a meme that like I know that's not his humor, but he sends it to me because he knows I'll think it's funny. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute.
That is so cute.
I love him.
That is very cute, actually. And my siblings and now with you in the family, like we got group chats on every possible platform, and they're all named the same thing. So like the me, Brett, Kara, Kayla, the same name for texting and for Instagram. The me, Brett, Kara, same for texting and for Instagram. So it's like it's just like a digital extension. Like there's just are the same group message arms that reach into all these platforms because we're still connected on every possible level.
And then we'll have different conversations on both chats at the same time.
Yeah. The content that is being sent through Brett and Mai's DMs is actually very similar through our text conversations. But if we switch over to the sibling group chat, it's like 2 different things going on. So I just want to say, don't dismiss digital connection, especially for long distance relationships. It doesn't have to be just long distance relationships. It could be also the time, like you don't have time to go and have a meal with a friend, but you can talk to them on you can talk to them on the phone when you're on your way to work or on the way home or whatever. Digital connection is still quality time if you use it appropriately. Quality time can also come in our number 9 list, our type of quality time, which is surprises and spontaneity. That might seem again like an act of service, but it's just like a surprise quality time instead of a planned one. If you show up unannounced to their house with their favorite coffee, and if that's something that they would be into, they might be like, oh, like for me that would be the sweetest thing, and I would be absolutely overjoyed if someone did it for me. But I know some people that if you showed up to their house unexpectedly, they would be freaked out to their core. So again, knowing what types of quality time work for your friends is very important, and knowing them is what matters in executing these types of quality time. If one of my friends showed up right now and was like, hey, I want to spend time with you, I'd be like, thanks, but other people would be like, ew, if I showed up even at my friend's house right now, they'd be like, what are you doing here? Like, we just spent 5 days together, in a cruise cabin, hilarious. Which is like 1.5 feet by 2.5 feet. All right, we kind of have a weird amount of quality time things. We're stopping at number 11. We are on number 10 right now. Normally we would have a nice clean number of 10 or a nice even number, but no, we have 11 types of quality time, people, because we care about you and we always want to give you one more than you actually need because you deserve it. Number 10 is shared goals and projects. Collaborating on a common goal or a project, whether it's renovating a house, a church project, starting a garden, working on like a creative endeavor. For example, my friends last year were tasked with creating a cardboard city for our youth conference Momentum. We worked on that together. We don't have a dog in the fight in Momentum. Like we're not on the youth staff or anything like that, but we were asked to do it. And, because people know of the four of us as an entity, we did it. And like a couple weeks ago at All Nation Sunday, we had the baklava. We did the Lebanon tent together. Creative endeavors, shared goals, shared project. We created a sense of like accomplishment and unity whenever we work on things together, which is absolutely just as much as quality time as anything else. Some of my favorite memories from when I was a kid is when people would come over to our house and like help my dad put in a driveway or put, just something where like my mom, my friend's mom were working together, and then whatever they were doing, the kids got to be together, a part of it, but it was like a different energy in the house. And I don't know, it's something extremely specific that I don't know that anybody else feels this way, but those are moments in my life that just stick out very, very clearly, of times where a goal or a project was being met specifically by my parents, and therefore by extension me and my friends got to be together in this different type of environment.
That's sweet. My my aunt worked on all 4 of our wedding dresses, my sisters and me. But she would always tell us, okay, if I'm going to work on your wedding dress, then you need to come over and sit there and talk to me while I work on it. One of the times, it wasn't every time she worked on it, but I did one time. I was like, okay. So I sat there and we talked and she worked on my dress. But yeah, that is something that she valued, was that quality time while she worked on that project.
And kudos for her for being able to express what she needed, right? Sometimes you need quality time, but you feel like you are like being a burden if you ask for quality time, when it takes quite a bit of courage to straight up say, this is what I would like. Yeah. And then she got it. And you know what? You got memories from that and your wedding dress. So 2 for 1 special. All right. Number 11, our very last type of quality time. We already touched on this a little bit in a different phraseology, but this one is straight up relaxing together. Okay. We talked about parallel play. We talked about being on your phone, but simply being present with someone in just a very calm, relaxed environment. You're lounging at home, you're sitting on the beach together, you're just together. You feel comfortable, you feel connected, and you feel peace. And you know that they're there. If you wanted to strike up a conversation, you could. If you wanted to switch environments, you could. But just relaxing, being together, no agenda, letting it flow the way it's going to be, not having expectations.
Yes.
You're just in the moment, will give you a connection or help to strengthen the connection that you already have.
You also need to make sure that you're on the same page about what relaxing is. Some people may have different definitions. Last year we went on a family vacation for Thanksgiving to Aptos. We had a beautiful beach house, and half the family wanted to go on a hike.
Ugh.
I'm like, it was our Anderson Thanksgiving. I'm like, look, like that doesn't sound fun to me.
And thank God you married into this family, because now it's straight up 3 and 3. It used to be 2 and 3, and like we were always viewed as the ones that like, you know, they don't like hiking and they're lazy, whatever. You know, like it's vacation. I don't want to have to walk, and hiking is the worst. So thank God we're evened out now.
On vacation, you don't want to have to practice discipline, like, no. Or anything hard.
Not today, not ever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, us 3 went shopping. Yeah. And the other 3 went hiking. So
we went
that was
shopping.
Relaxing for me.
I think we got coffee. We played cards. Did we get pizza?
We did. We went to Pizza My Heart.
We did. We went to Pizza My Heart, and then we went to Verve, and we just sat outside. We played cards. It was so chill, because for the 3 of us, that was quality time. And for 3 of those nerds, I don't know if they were having quality time. They were probably having unquality time. But
probably couldn't catch their breath to have quality time.
Probably. But no, that's a great example. It's just being on the same page and building that connection. And sometimes that, using my family as an example, you know, if Kayla had not been a part of the family, my mom and I still would not have gone on that hike. And they would have been fine with that. Like the other 3 would have been fine with that. But now it just gives us a little bit, you know, split 3 and 3 and that kind of thing. So 3 of us are on the same page, 3 of us are not, or 3 of us are on their own page, which is totally fine, because we still have quality time going. It just doesn't have to be the exact same. And you know what? The rest of the weekend, we were together the whole weekend. It was awesome. It's not like we split up our time so that half of us was spending quality time and the other half was spending quality time. It was just the one instance. So if it's just you and a friend, you'll most likely be on the same page. But if it's a group of friends, you should be okay if the other part of the group has a different version of quality time and just wants to spend it in a different environment. That should be totally okay with every person involved.
Yep.
Unless it's like a bachelorette trip or something, then your focus should be on the bride. But we have got slated for our season 1. We're talking about, we got so many things going, and we'll definitely get into the etiquette of like bridal parties and all that kind of stuff. If not in season 1, goodness. You know what, we will get into season 2 or season 3.
We are going to touch on it at some point.
We might have a whole special episode outside of the season. We'll know. Well, we don't know, but
a series.
A series. We should bring on like tons of guests during that time and just like tell us your story.
That could get dangerous real quick.
Well, we are so grateful that you decided to spend this time with us listening to Friendeavor the podcast, and we appreciate you subscribing and sharing, leaving us a review. 5 stars if you please. Give us a rating, give us a review, and definitely share us with a friend. Kara sent out a Instagram question probably a couple years ago at this point, and said, what are the best Apsolog podcasts? And she got a few responses, and one of them is now my favorite podcast. Like, I love listening to it, and I would never have known if someone had not told me about it. So someone might be looking for a podcast about friendship, and you could be the one who opens the door for them to find what they're looking for. In the meantime, we thank you so much for joining us for episode 8. Next week, episode 9, we are talking about reciprocity. If you don't know what reciprocity is, tune in next week, and we will definitely be telling you what it is then.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Friendeavor the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's content, leave a review and share with a friend. You can find the show notes on our website, www.friendeavor.net, and in the description of this episode.
Friendship is a journey. It's an endeavor. We'll see you next time on Friendeavor.